Dr. Harvey Fletcher, eminent American scientist, was born in Provo, Utah, and so he is truly a son of our city. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from Brigham Young University in 1907, and in 1911 received a PhD degree, summa cum laude, from the University of Chicago. He was chairman of the Department of Physics at BYU from 1911 to 1916, and during this period he also served as president of the Utah Academy of Science. In 1916, Dr. Fletcher joined the Western Electric Company's engineering department, which later became a part of the famous Bell Telephone Laboratories. An impressive number of firsts run through his career. He was the first physics student at the University of Chicago to receive summa cum laude honors, the first member of the Bell Telephone Laboratory staff to be elected president of the American Physical Society, first president of the Acoustical Society of America, and a member of the first executive committee and co-organizer of the American Institute of Physics. Dr. Fletcher's outstanding research work has brought him numerous awards and honors. Honorary doctorates have been given him by Brigham Young University, Columbia University, the University of Utah, Kenyon College, Stevens Institute of Technology, and the Case School of Applied Sciences. He returned to BYU in 1952 upon his retirement from the Bell Telephone Laboratories and has continued to have a very active life and service here at BYU. He became the first dean of the new College of Physical and Engineering Sciences. Dr. Fletcher has also served as director of research at BYU, but has now relinquished both of these administrative offices so that he can devote more time to individual research and teaching. Recognized as one of the leading acousticians throughout the world, Dr. Fletcher is also a faithful and loyal member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. During his long and fruitful career in science, he has never failed in his allegiance to the restored gospel. To him there have never been irreconcilable conflicts between science and religion. This week, as we pay honor to the engineering sciences, it is most fitting that we hear from one of the truly great men in our church, one who has made such an outstanding scientific contribution in this world. We're very happy at this time to introduce Dr. Harvey Fletcher.
It's certainly a great privilege for me to stand before you at this time. Before I forget it, I want to pay tribute to the fine music that we hear. We sometimes don't realize what blessings we have until we miss them. If there were no other thing in these assembly programs and the music we hear each time we're here, I'm sure that I would be greatly benefited, and it gives me a thrill every time I hear this great music. Some 50 years ago, when I first joined the faculty of this school, I looked around and I just couldn't understand why there were so many old men left on it. When I came back 7 years ago and looked around at the faculty, I just couldn't understand why so many youngsters were among the faculty members, and some of them holding real executive responsibility. And then when we first came to register students, I looked at the freshmen and I wondered when it was so many children were permitted to come to college. You see, it's all on your point of view. I have been asked to speak this morning on the subject of science and religion. It seems to be a favorite topic for young people at this time. I think this is particularly true of those who have been taught a creed and philosophy about the relationship of God and man, and then on coming to college find some facts which seem to be contrary to what they have been taught at home. President Brimhall used to refer to this period as the unfolding of the sophomore's mind. It's sometimes a difficult adjustment to make, and some students never make it. I cannot hope to solve all your difficulties in this regard, but I will try to give you the benefit of my experiences in these two fields. I have a fair reputation as a scientist, and I have a firm faith in God. I did not obtain this faith through scientific reasoning, but through spiritual experiences which are difficult to explain to other persons but nevertheless, they are very real. By continuing to think and practice religious things, such a person is able to keep his faith in spite of scientific conclusions that seem at the moment to be contradictory to his religious faith. This has certainly been my experience. Then he tries to rationalize both his religious thinking and also his scientific findings to see if some agreement can be reached. Frequently he finds that what he thought was his religious belief and what he thought was his scientific fact can be changed to bring them into agreement. However, sometimes such a resolution does not satisfy either your religious associates or your scientific co-workers, but brings satisfaction to your own mind. Sometimes, however, there appears to be no possibility of agreement. For these cases, he just has to leave it as a problem unsolved and hope that at some future time more knowledge will resolve the difficulty. Naturally, one who believes in God tries hard to bring into focus scientific facts that will support his belief. Before discussing some of these facts for and against a belief in God, let us take a look at our physical world and see some of the limitations of the human mind in understanding it. One of the first things we see is that the world is made up of matter. This matter can be divided into two classes, you might say living things and dead things. The mountains and material things, houses, etc., in the first class, and insects and animals of all sorts and human beings in the second class. Now, matter from either one of these classes are subject to two great and universal forces, which I now want to make clear to you. The first is called gravitational force. Every particle of matter in the universe attracts every other particle with a force inversely proportional to the distance between them and proportional to the masses. I haven't stated that correctly, as some of you scientists know, but no matter. You are aware of this in all your acts in life. So everyone in this audience is attracted to every other individual, whether he likes it or not. Also, each one is tied to every particle in the universe by this force. You're conscious of this gravitational pull of the earth upon your bodies in all your activities. And we have to cope with it in spite of the fact that we cannot understand why it should be and what property of matter makes it that way. It would be foolish to say, I don't believe because I can't understand it. The second great physical tie between all of us and every other particle, material particle, comes from another property of matter. As most of you have learned in your classes in science, matter is composed of molecules, which in turn can be broken up into atoms, Each atom is a tiny universe of its own. It has a nucleus about which tiny particles of electricity called electrons are revolving. These electrons are the fundamental constituents of all matter. Some of them are easily detached from the atom, and when so freed, they produce all the electrical phenomena of which you are familiar. These electrons are a great social group. They are all tied together by invisible ties, such that when any one of them starts or stops, or changes its motion in any way, all the other electrons in the universe are affected. When such a change is made, a wave is sent out from the electron going away from it with the speed of light. That is, with the speed of 186,000 miles per second. So whenever such a change in motion of the electron takes place, it is signaled all over this world in less than a seventh of a second. It is this property that makes radio and television possible. The electrons in the sending antenna are made to dance in tune with the music or speech. Their manner of dancing is conveyed with the speed of light to the electrons in your home set. And there, the electrical vibration is transformed into sound. Every time you think or flex a muscle, these waves are sent out from the electrons in your body. Every physiological activity, the heartbeat, the breathing, etc., sends out waves. They can be picked up by appropriate electrical apparatus and are used by doctors in diagnosing troubles in the human mechanism. One of the things that distinguish dead from living matter is that each living cell has an electrical potential difference between its nucleus and the matter surrounding it. When this potential difference disappears, the cell is dead and becomes like any other matter. I've given you this very hasty sketch in headlines so that you will realize, even in the material sense, you are part of a great and precise organization and can never act or think without influencing all other individuals in the world, those nearest to you most and those farthest away least. With this picture in mind, then, let us consider the limitations of the human mind in comprehending what we call space and time in our universe. Let us look at what I'll call 6 different worlds, where space and time are so vastly different we can hardly comprehend them. First, the world around us we'll call World 1. Here, a second of time is about the length it takes the heart to beat. Day is the time from sunup to sunup, and a year is the time it takes the earth to revolve around the sun. Distances are measured in terms of yards, that is, an arm's length, or in miles, the distance a person can walk in 15 minutes. These times and lengths are intimately tied in with our daily experience. Now, in what I'll call World 2 is that tiny world where molecules, atoms, and electrons are the individuals. Entirely new times and lengths reign here. It would take 100 million placed side by side of these molecules to reach an inch. The time scale is also correspondingly small. Some of the electrons make 1,000 million trips around the nucleus of the atom in a second. If it were possible for an intelligent being to live on the electron, and he called the time a year that it took this tiny planet to make one trip around its nuclear center, then he would conclude that it took 1,000 million years for a human being to blink his eye. This is not the end. For as we move within the atom, which I will call World 3, the time and space scales are changed again by about a factor of 1,000,000. It is the explorations in this World 3 that has produced the atomic and hydrogen bombs. Well, now we move away from these tiny worlds and let us look at some of the worlds larger than ours. Look at the starry universe. The space scale convenient to use here is the distance that light will travel in a year, which is 6,000 billion miles. The bright stars we see are from 3 to 100 of these units away. Similarly, the scale must be changed for this world, which I've called World 4. Astronomers tell us that the great galaxy of stars, which are our sun with its planets, including the Earth as a part, is shaped like a giant wagon wheel and is slowly revolving around a common center, making one revolution in 200 million years. Now again, if an intelligent being could live on one of these stars, and if he called his year the time it takes this galaxy to make one revolution, and then also divided this year into minutes as we do, then he might look at our Earth to see what was taking place. In just 15 minutes of his time, he would witness all the historical events on Earth from Adam to the present time. Well, there's still a World 5, in which we must again increase our scale by about 1 billion-fold. It is the world of nebula, or the family of galaxies. Astronomers can observe a considerable detail in these giant creations by using very large telescopes. They tell us that these are separated by as much as 1 billion light years. Each is a galaxy by itself, similar to the one in which we are a part. It's estimated that there are millions of these galaxies in the range of our telescopes. Then finally, there is a world you might call World 6, which is called the eternal world, in which there is no time. Now, this is hard, and to me it seems impossible for us to understand. But it's scriptural. I could give you two or three scriptures. One of them is plain, is in Alma, 40th chapter, 12th verse. All is one day with God, and time only is measured under man. Well, now that's not entirely a unique idea, because the Hindus believe the same thing. They believe where God dwells there is no time, and time is only under man. So in this world 6 there is neither beginning nor end of time. Well, so much for this picture. Now let us consider our problems of science and religion. The problem that immediately comes to your mind against a belief in God: where does he dwell? Where is heaven? How does he answer prayers? Heaven is not just above the clouds, as was once thought by the early Christians. At least, if it is not visible to the human eye. If placed out in the vast stellar system somewhere, the problem of communication between God and man becomes almost incomprehensible to a scientist. However, if one believes that God's representatives and other departed spirits still are existing on this earth or near it, but cannot be seen or sensed by human beings, then the difficulty disappears. We know that messages by radio can be sent anywhere in this world in less than 1/7 of a second. And it's not hard for a scientist to believe that if such beings are around us, they could make their presence known by certain devices which he could easily conjecture. Or one might solve the problem by assuming that there is a communication faster than that due to light, something like gravitational waves. Although man has not yet found such a method, it might exist so that rapid communication might be had throughout the whole universe. Now, along with a belief in God, one must, I think, have a belief in man's survival after death. This is a real difficulty for a scientist who sees the body disintegrate into the earthly elements of which it is composed. From a strictly scientific point of view, this seems to be the end of the individual. First thought, there seems to be no way out of this difficulty. But on the other hand, if this is the end of man, then man was just a machine brought together by chance. This thought is revolting to one's own dignity, and I want to underline this, and is mathematically impossible if we use strictly the laws of probability as we know them. So one is led to think of man as a dual being, and only one part disintegrates after death and the other part lives on, although we have no scientific way of sensing its presence. These two difficulties for a believer are offset by the following two difficulties for a non-believer. In the inorganic world, we have a principle called entropy. It states that all processes in the inorganic world take place in such a way that hot things are getting cooler and cool things are getting hotter. Another way of stating this is that the whole world is going from a more complex to a more simple organization until there will be no available energy left. This seems to agree with all the physical facts that we know. This result can be predicted from mathematical calculations based upon the laws of chance. Now, if the universe is continually running down, who wound it up? In the world of living things, just the opposite kind of processes are taking place. Growing things go from simple to the complex, from a small seed to a complex organization. Each living thing has a goal towards which it goes, and in so doing overcomes many obstacles. In the process, it violates all the laws of probability or chance which rule in the inorganic world. In other words, there must be a guiding influence of some kind directing these living processes to their goal. Some have called this influence anti-chance, and by various other means. Of course, the Hindus believe that these are only manifestations. All these living things are only manifestations of a great general spirit, which is the guiding influence. And that coincides somewhat closely to our own belief that the Spirit of God in some way goes throughout the universe and has an influence upon all living things. So we ran into blind alleys by rational thinking, whether we take the position there is a God or the position that there is no God. The human mind does not seem to bring into a consistent whole all the phenomena it observes and feels. As Hamlet said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. As a human being, I am conscious that I am alive and have subtle internal feelings and experiences that are the most real things in life. These experiences vibrate so strongly within me that I am convinced that indeed there is more to this world than just what the mind can comprehend. So I have a firm belief that God lives somewhere, somehow, and that life has purpose for each of us living here on earth. Now, some of the conflicts between science and religion are resolved when we clearly define what is religion and what is science. Science is an orderly arrangement of observed facts. Certain laws and hypotheses are formulated so that these facts are more meaningful. A true scientist does not go much beyond the range of observed facts. If he does, he leaves the realm of science and enters into the realm of speculation. On the other hand, religion deals with ultimates, such as the relationship of God to man, purpose for man's existence, where he came from and why he is here and whither is he going. These are nearly all outside the realm of observed facts, at least by most human beings. Religion deals with a way of life, also deals with a way of life and how to live so one gets the most joy out of this life. This part of religion can be rationalized. As a matter of fact, psychologists have described what is termed the good life and the characteristics of a mature adult, and it agrees very closely with what our religious teachers have been teaching for centuries. And I just read in headlines what some of the things correspond to a mature adult. He must have knowledge, know about things and people. Now, this is the psychologist's point of view. He must be able to communicate. He must have responsibility and dependent upon for all his obligations, both financial and moral. He must be teachable, always in an attitude to learn, even from little children. He must have empathy, being able to put himself in the place of the other fellow and think and feel as he does. He must listen to his spiritual ancestors, the great books and teachings of the past. And seventh, he must have faith in that life is worth living, faith in some philosophy of life, faith in a purposeful God. Now, those are the headlines, and we can spend the rest of the day talking about them, that the psychologists put down. I think you recognize immediately that they're directly in agreement with the teachings which we are making for the good life or a good Latter-day Saint. Now, since psychologists deal with human behavior and social science deals with the behavior of groups, it is evident there may be differences of opinion in these sciences from those taught in religion, because they are dealing with the same field of human activity. However, religious leaders call upon these sciences to help orientate young people towards the ideal they would have them reach. Now, the physical sciences are more exact and deal only with inanimate things. Here, if the physical science stays strictly in his field and the religious teacher in his field, they cannot conflict because they are in different fields. Apparent conflicts arise when a religious leader tries to instruct about the laws of dynamics or atomic fission when he knows little about it. Or a scientist tries to criticize the behavior of a truly religious person when he himself never felt the inner convictions that motivate such a person. There has grown up among some LDS members the notion that scientists in general do not have faith in God. It is true that many scientists are agnostic and a few of them are infidel. But it has been my experience to find a larger percent of scientists who believe in God than exists in the general population. Now I have here the testimony of a number of scientists. You could pick out the great scientists of the past. We've had some great scientists in our own church and among the apostles. Orson Pratt, Brother Talmage, Brother Widsoe, and Brother Merrill, all of them noted in their line. That is an answer in itself about conflict between religion and science. I should like to read, however, one from a geologist, part of it, because geologists, I think, are accused more often of underlying the faith of young people than any of the other scientists. This is from Dr. Joseph LeConte, late professor of geology and natural history at the University of California. Theism, or a belief in God, or in gods, in a supernatural agency of some kind controlling the phenomena around us, is the fundamental basis and condition of all religion and is therefore universal, necessary, and intuitive. I will therefore not attempt to bring any proof of that which lies back of all proof and is already more certain than anything can be made by any process of reasoning. The ground of this belief lies in the very nature of man. It is the foundation and groundwork of reason. I'll not read it all, but in the final part of it, he emphasizes that you must believe in a personal God. He does away with the pantheism of some as the only type that will satisfy the human heart. Well, I wished I had time to read all of that, but if you look at all the scientists in the past, the great names, if you look at Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, Faraday, Maxwell, Kelvin, Raleigh, Louis Pasteur, all of them were religious men. I had quite an experience with Professor Pupin, who was the president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science some years ago. Probably some of you have heard me tell the story of meeting him with President George Albert Smith, and a week later appeared in the New York Times a statement by Professor Pupin of his belief in God, and that's in the notes, but I won't have time, I see, to read it. But the greatest argument, as I said before, if you take among our LDS people in the last 20 or 30 years, we have scientists grown up all over this country. And you'll find them usually in positions of responsibility in the church, bishops, high councilmen, and so forth. Now there are problems that I don't understand, both in this physical world and in the world of human relations. And I have sometimes become discouraged, as I trust you do at times. At such time, I sat down and wrote the following, which I wish to share with you. I've entitled them 10 Things to Remember. Remember that man is that he might have joy. Remember, joy comes by developing and using my talents, not only for myself, but for humanity. Remember to approach my daily problems with love in my heart for those involved, work and do my best, and trust in God for the reward. Remember not to worry too much about the yesterdays or fear too much about the tomorrows. For the yesterdays are gone forever and the tomorrows never come. But greet each dawn as the beginning of a new adventure where the interplay of faith, love, and work either makes life richer or more miserable according to my efforts and attitudes. Remember to rise above adversity and trouble, for these are given to increase my patience and sympathies for mankind. In overcoming them, I will progress nearer towards the salvation and exaltation all are seeking. Men, like rivers, become crooked by following the line of least resistance. Remember to be optimistic at all times, for all experiences have their bright side. Remember to follow the Scout law and do a good turn daily, and thus increase the number and intensities of my friendships. Friendships constitute the greatest wealth on earth. Never hesitate to win friends by losing dollars. Remember, a truly Christian gentleman always has an encouraging word and a kind deed for others. Remember to pray always, leave me not in temptation, and deliver me from evil. Remember to do the things that increase faith in God, for with such faith I will resolve all the conflicts of my mind and soul, and it will carry me through great sorrow and even through the valley of death, and yet be untroubled and leave no bitterness but a sweet peace of mind that all is well because God lives. My dear young people, most of you have been born of goodly parents and have a firm belief in God. Who had a firm belief in God? Do not sell your birthright for a mess of pottage. A fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Play the fool and you must pay the price. Amen.
The part of Dr. Fletcher's talk, which he was not able to share with us because of the limitations of time, will be included in the printed talk, which will be distributed soon on the campus. I, for one, will want to obtain a copy of this very informative and inspirational address. I'm sure most, if not all of you, will want to do the same. We wish to thank Dr. Fletcher